Evening all. Yeah, we are into Invictus. We are into Fleet Week. We are into all of that good stuff. Excuse me. Sorry, Feathers, if you're still here. No problem, buddy. Have good fun on your org op, and we'll see you soon. Notorious, good evening. How are you, mate? Good to see you back. We'll be talking some Navy stuff this evening, so this may or may not be interesting. May or may not be news to you, but yeah. So, gonna muck around with the stream a little bit. So, I've got some video highlights stuff that we talked about last week to pop that up and see how that looks. Good evening, Monster. AV, good to see you, buddy. So, yes, we shall have a muck around with some of that. I shall turn the gain down on my mic because I noticed that it's peaking a little, so we'll stop that from happening. One of these, excuse me, one of these days, we are going to have a stream where I don't either break something, mute something that I shouldn't have, or just get booted out of Star Citizen. The good news, even Napo, the good news is we think we know what's wrong with the constant crashing. So it's a two-step process. We've done the first step, which has made the game so much more stable for me. It's a little bit embarrassing. Maybe I'll tell you later. But the other thing is that now the next step will be for me to do a full Windows reinstall. So we tried doing the game, we tried the full fresh, ripped everything out, pulled it all out of the registry, did everything. Nope. The embarrassing bit was that I didn't have XMP turned on at all since building the thing. So it's running blisteringly fast now compared to what it was. Unfortunately, my RAM was running in its native 2666 megahertz when it's rated up to 3600 or 36,000. So that's fast. That has massively stabilized things. However, that's not the whole story. So I have Napo, when I can find it from wherever hell we put it when we tidied. I have a solid state that's going to go in this thing in M2. That's going to be a full Windows reinstall. That's going to be basically one of my weeks off that I've got coming up. Just so that if it does go wrong, I don't screw the pooch, so to speak, and I'm not trying to fight with everything that I'm doing at work and then dealing with all this nonsense as well when I get home. So that's the plan. The good news is that should, we think, fix it. If not, then I'm just going to cry a lot. That's the backup plan. So yes, so what I want to do in just a moment is we're going to switch over to some footage that I got earlier on today and yesterday. The first bit I want to do, just to let kind of people kind of come in, is I want to look at one of the illegal salvage missions. I make a right hash of it, which is quite good fun. But then we'll have a look at the Javelin, and I'll give you my thoughts as an ex-serving RN officer as to how they're doing with the Javelin, what makes sense, what doesn't. Give you some anecdotes and just generally, hopefully, make that a little bit exciting. And then we'll look at some of their Invictus stuff that they've got going on. Right, okie dokie, let's have a look. There we go. So I'm just going to switch you over. Now, hopefully that's working. Although I can't see whether it's working. So can you let me know and tell me if that's working? Let's have a look just quickly. I'm just going to... Hey, what do you know? It works. I'm kind of monitoring it on my second screen up here. So yeah, good. Let me know if that's too loud. Also, if you can't hear it at all, let me know too, and I'll figure something out. Good. Can't hear any game audio. No worries. I can fix that, I think. Although it might switch over very, very quickly to... Let's capture... I don't even know which one this is. Which one is it? That one? That one? That one? I don't know. Let's give me just a second here. Sorry, this is going to be awful. This is me being a pro, obviously. Which one are you? Name wave 3. Okay. Let's have a look. That one. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just send us back a little bit on that one, because you'll have missed most of it, although it's just a chance for me to kind of keep you in the loop as to what's going on. Hopefully that'll fix it, question mark. So is that us back in now? Can you hear? We all good? Little loud over me, that's no problem. I can fix that. Watch. There we go. Ta-da! Okay, so basically you pick up these illegal salvage missions. Now these aren't the ones in the general, these are the ones in your personal. And unlike most of the personal stuff, they don't automatically trigger a crime stat with what you do. You can make it out perfectly safe without crime stat nonsense. So you pick it up, it's 10k UEC to go and do the mission stuff, and then this is it, right? So you're given a location, there's no rep, you can drop the mission whenever you want, but basically what's going to happen is we're going to get close in, and when you get really up close to the salvage, it's going to tell you that you're basically trespassing. So if you're found at that point, you can get in trouble. If you're scanned with any of their guns or missiles, as far as I'm aware, that will also land you in trouble. So yeah, you've got to be a little bit careful. But basically, like it says, it says estimated time until arrival. Now that's not accurate. I've had stuff turn up at the 10-minute mark. So you got to be a little bit careful about it. But I do like that we've got these. You can see here, I'm just checking out like a contact behind me. Turns out it's one of the it's the HUD artifacts, basically the bug. So I couldn't select it at all. It's not showing up on my scanner on the top right. So we are all good. I think we're going to be okay. And what I'm doing here is I'm just kind of scanning it out and feeling it out for a couple of reasons. But the main one is I want to see what it's got in its cargo. And this one didn't have anything, unfortunately. Okay. But there you go. So basically, this is a salvage scheme that's been staked. So really, I shouldn't be here. Now, I make a bit of a hash of this, but in my defence, it's not all my fault. And what you'll see with a lot of this is I either get the animation that stuff is melting. You'll see it almost straight away. The hull is being scraped. Yep. And nothing's happening, or that the hull's not scraping like this, and it's not really coming in, because it should be coming in at a better rate than that. There's also lots of areas where I kind of point at areas that I should be able to scrape, and nothing is happening, because it's like reading the cargo door through what I'm pointing at, or it's reading the turret through what I'm looking at, and it then goes, well, you can scrape that. It's like, I'm not trying to. That's on the other side of the ship. So yeah, it's with the newer model stuff, the stuff that isn't an Avenger or the pieces or the M2, it feels a little less reliable. The model doesn't feel as kind of complete and polished and all that sort of stuff. And I don't know whether it's, again, just a model thing, but the extraction rate seems to have dropped massively. And I'm fully aware, the idea is to keep as much, like this here, this feels very buggy when I did it. It wasn't the very kind of comfortable salvage experience that I've had before. But yeah, other than that, I really quite like these. To me, this feels a lot like Serenity and Firefly, being out on the edge, doing things that, alright, are illegal by the letter of the law, but you're not hurting anyone, you're not harming anyone, you're not being the bad guy, you're just getting there before someone else, right? That's how this works, right? But yeah, and the missions are going to become a lot more interesting, because at the moment the recycled material composite is like one of the most expensive SCU boxes you can get right now, right? The problem is that the salvage that they're putting in, the crates that they're putting into the ships, by and large, don't compete SCU boxes. So you're better off salvaging, leaving the space in your hold for more composite, unless you've got like one space for a box left. To be honest, it's better just to go and get another contract, go and get another ship, hull scrape, more composite, and on you go. There are obviously some boxes that may well be there, but it's like, well, why are you even giving me the boxes if this is a no-brainer? And that's one of the bits that I was talking about, where you kind of, it's either showing me the hole through the door, which is what's confusing me, or I'm like this. Like, why is that not working there? I don't understand. But yeah, that extraction rate feels a lot slower, and I know I'm not doing it in the most efficient way ever, but other than that, this is quite good fun. You do find yourself glancing at the radar screen a lot. There's some times where I've actually rocked up and the security are already here, so you get scanned on your way in, which is a little bit like it's like, oh crap, have I got anything stolen on me? Oh no, I'll be alright. But here, like, this is, I'm trying to be as efficient as possible and still only hitting kind of 0.7 or 0.007 SCU extraction, and now it's dropped well off. Maybe it's just Drake, right? Maybe their armor isn't that good. I don't know. Your armor's worth nothing, Drake. But yeah, so this is, for those that are just joining us, this is An illegal salvage mission. Monster Avi says, definitely looks slower than it was in the PTU. Haven't gotten a cutty, but it does look a bit janky. Yeah, Avi, when you've done stuff in live, what hulls have you done and how did you find it? Because I found this quite frustrating. From someone who actually has got Avengers and the armour plates that you just kind of find floating about, and the Hercules down quite well. I feel like I can kind of clean them off pretty quickly. I've also done a Prospector, I think, as well. That seemed to go fairly alright. Yeah. Hello, John Cop. Salvaging, mate, I really enjoyed it. Just saying, it feels very Firefly, living on the edge, you know, kind of in the grey between good guy, bad guy, especially with his illegal salvage missions. Just saying, the Cutlass model here, as you'll see as I go around, seems to feel a little bit like it's not quite there yet for salvage. They've got some work to do on it. But yeah, other than that, I've found that the guns on most ships aren't worth taking off. Because for the, even size 3s and stuff, they're only selling for 2,500, 3,000 a weapon. And when you consider the risk of having them in the hull, bouncing about, don't like it. I don't know if it's this one, I pinched a missile at some point and all I could hear was this thing bouncing around in the back of the Vulture, and I was like, nope, no, I'm alright, thanks. So I actually got to an orbital marker, stopped, in fact I think I might have done it with this as well, stopped and just bounced it all out the back. I was like, nope, not worth the risk. Last thing I need is that missile exploding inside my Vulture. Thanks very much. But yeah, I imagine if I haven't done a Connie yet, so when I do the Connie, was kind of hoping that, you know, the size 4s and that would bring in a bit more money. Signal Track 66 says, I can see we get into this one eventually get back in game. Yeah, absolutely. It definitely was a lot of fun. And I'm gonna, I think, keep coming back to this quite regularly, especially when I fix the rig. Monster says, did a single Hurricane live, was about the same, but gun sales did get naffed. Yeah, I thought they might have. I haven't had much luck in live. Kept telling me all the parcel hangars were full, and I couldn't call ships online. That's a bit of a shame. Although, free fly will be free fly, right? That's always a bit of a challenge for us. But yeah, pallets, anything. Do you know what? I'll take bubble wrap, Joe. If I'm honest, just like anything to hear it not bounce around. Yeah, because that's a little bit terrifying. The other thing that I'm kind of looking forward to with this is getting into it and kind of going into Rex and seeing what's going on, because of course I'd imagine one of the next things will be, especially after battles and stuff and after PvP events, will be the bodies and that, but also when they add them, going in, taking out components. I would imagine the Oxytorch cutter tool is going to get so much more use when we get to that stage of salvage. Is going to be really good. This is what I mean about it being janky. Shifting gears. Welcome to the stream, mate. Good evening. How's things? Yeah, I'm good. I can guarantee you a crash-free stream at the moment because this is video. So I've been recording bits throughout the week, so I can guarantee a crash-free salvage mission, legal one, which is this. I can also guarantee you a crash-free walk around to the Javelin with some proper naval commentary on top. So yeah. So the PC 50% of the way there. The next step is going to be a bit meaty. It's going to be a full Windows reinstall. Someone asked me when I last did my Windows install, and I got a bit embarrassed because, yeah, it's been a bit of a while ago. So I've done upgrades all over the place, but I haven't done a pretty fresh install on a drive for a long time. So that's hopefully going to fix a whole bunch of things. We figured out what the error is. They stopped mentioning the area about 2020, so that's why we think it might be a legacy Windows issue. But yeah, the good news is that sorting my RAM out and tweaking that a little bit in the BIOS has made things far more stable. So I'm able to do this a lot more now. And at least get you some decent footage. Got a pleasing run around Lawville. That was good. Although the footage I got was all bits. It was all kind of single sections. So, yeah. So here's where I go and decide, basically. I'm running out of time. I want to go and see what guns this thing's got on it. Also, I want to see if there's anything inside it. So, the scan didn't show any cargo, but then again, it's Star Citizen, so let's go find out what's inside it. And see if there's anything worth nicking. Yeah, because I'm really kind of looking forward to that, and you know, maybe a capture card and or a second rig or all that sort of good stuff. We'll figure something out. We'll figure something out, and there'll be a video, hopefully in the next kind of couple of weeks. So I'm working this coming week. And then I am working from home the following week, and then the week off afterwards. It is my birthday. It's a vaguely milestone-ish birthday that I don't want to talk about. I'm looking for missiles at this point. I think that's what I was doing, and I was like, no, I'm going to go inside instead. But yeah. So I've got that week off. So I'm going to get horrendously drunk with Napo Complex and a whole bunch of other people the first weekend. And then, yeah. So not so much the Idris, mate. There is one on the Javelin, though, which we'll do next. I just wanted to give a little bit of time to see who else would arrive, because I know there's a few people gonna to come along. So yeah, there'll be some video of highlights and what I like about 319, and then a little while afterwards, we're going to talk about medical gameplay, where we think medical gameplay is. A couple of the issues that I think exist with that. I think at this point I got confused. I was like, where be my ship? And then figured out that it was off at right angles. Yeah, bounced off something, and then I was like, oh, that looks vaguely vulture shaped. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, thanks guys. Cheers. I did make the joke on Info Runners today, so sorry, Avi and everyone else there. You're going to hear this again, but you know, the whole reason I grew the beard was to stop getting ID'd in the supermarket because I look so youthful. Or you know, not. But yeah. So. But yeah, this is quite good fun. So one of the bits that I remembered from was ISC was if you stop and then hold R and then scroll, you can rotate the damn thing, so you don't have to bounce it off the ship. But I still don't like this because that's the ship taking damage. I think it's only like 1 point at a time, but it is still damage, and yeah, vaguely milestone single track, vaguely. There's an O in there somewhere. But yeah, this is kind of coming to a close now. So, based on my experience of having these guys rock up 10 minutes from the end, I was like, yeah, maybe I don't. The other thing I'm not sure about these is, yeah, see, that damages my calm watching that happen. But yeah, that's just not pleasant ever. Oh, I think I tried to get in, and if anyone can tell me what's actually happened here, like, I would appreciate it. Because I have no idea. Like, I think I'm in the top of my ship now. Because if you see where I pop out, I'm like, yeah, there you go. But yeah, I don't know whether other people can see this as well, so whether this becomes a PvP thing. Would be kind of cool if it does. But yeah, we'll see.
Engines online.
Yeah, the drinks in the ships. I remember that. Yeah, things just bouncing around. And then, of course, I shoot it because mining mode and I'm an idiot. But yeah, I think I kind of decided at this point that I want to try and finish off that SCU crate at least. But there's no way that I'm going to stay and pick this thing clean because it's a painful slow rate. And I think this is where I get more efficient because you can see the extraction rate at points again is back up to 0.7, which is, I mean, I got it, or 0.007. Oh yeah, that's right. I punt it because why not? And now I'll just do my best, try and fill that crate, and that'll be the end of it. Not my finest hour on salvage, if I'm being honest. And then, of course, the server's not having a great time with it either, so we've got this back and forth kind of desync, I guess you'd call it. But yeah. And then the nice thing about this is no matter when you when you feel like you're finished with the mission, you literally just ditch it, abandon it. There's no rep. You're not hurting anything. You're not ruling yourself out of anything. No, I know I take this, but we don't actually get there. So what we'll do now is the first thing that I want to do really is kind of get to another location, get out of here. Get to an orbital marker away from it, so that even if I do get scanned, I'm not gonna get told off for trespassing at least. Yeah, I had a much better experience of it this morning, Gears. But that was it seems to have degenerated as it went today, and then it got to 4 o'clock, and then it was just no, the ship's changed over. It went to Aegis, and that was the end of that conversation. It was just pish. But yeah, so let's have a switch back to that one. Cool. So that is our illegal salvage mission. All that happens after that is I throw those guns out of the back of the ship because I'm like, nope, don't need that. And that's it. Wolf 96048. Welcome, mate. Ships that I own other than the Vulture. Okay. So I have the Amber Hawk, which is the cool foldy bounty hunter capture in the tail EMP1. That's on its way to becoming another ship. But it's part of a CCU chain, but it's in my ASOP at the minute. I have the Vulture. I have a Anvil C8R Rescue, which is courtesy of Can. Thank you, Can. Love you muchly. As a little Christmas present. Love it. Absolutely love it. Think it's great. For us bunker dwellers, it's just perfect. Having the, because I'm always forgetting drink and I'm always forgetting health, so the fact that it carries both of those is great, and unscrews me from my remembering or forgetting tier 3 injuries and getting shot in the chest and all that sort of nonsense. I have a Retaliator base, courtesy of Edison, which is cool. So it's the Retaliator bomber, so it's the one that fires the 6 torpedoes. That's mega. So that's quite good fun at the minute. For some reason, I actually have 2, which is weird. But yeah, that was that. I also have... I've got something else. So the Vulture is what I did to the Gallius that I got for the referral bonus. And then, as chat are talking about right now, I have a Perseus that I can't even begin to own up to on my own. That has nothing to do with me whatsoever. But I also stream over, if you've not seen, over at Info Runners as well. I'm with those guys. I go on their videos rather than their streams. But that's quite a big community. It's 14,000 people. And I was having a rough time at work last year. Really quite rough time at work. Just incredibly busy. Just couldn't come on, do shows, all that sort of stuff. So they all got together and basically crowdfunded me a Perseus. And they all, people all contributed bits for, like CCUs, rare CCU upgrades, so they could get it there quite cheaply, so it wasn't anything like the real price of a Perseus. We got there quite cheaply. I got the Thundercloud paint. I think Edison found that for me. So yeah, that's the Perseus. It has a name, or it will have a name. Unfortunately, right now, I cannot name it. So I'm going to keep stum, so no one nicks it. But if you are familiar with the lore surrounding Titans and the Adeptus Mechanicus in Warhammer 40,000, the name of my Perseus may well already be known to you. And I'll just leave it at that. And I have a Connie Taurus, which up until very, very recently has been my daily driver. It's in my hangar gathering dust at the minute because Pisces Rescue. Why not? Cool. Awesome. But yeah, how about yourselves? What ships have we got in chat? And do not feel if you've only got one and it's a starter ship, do not feel like that's a bad thing, because it's not. Only psychopaths buy in-game ships. I am proudly a psychopath. So there you go. Right, let's have a look at the Javelin. So, disclaimer on this one, ladies and gents. I picked up a friend. That's all I'm going to say. So, UES Warhammer Javelin class warships are absolutely massive. I just wanted to look at my own bottom here, obviously. Slow it down. I'm also going to use this in a video, so you'll probably find that I might re-step and do a couple of things, and you'll be like, what? Why did he do that? Why did you just do that again? It's probably because of something I wasn't happy with, and that's how I do shots and stuff. But yeah, you can hear him walking behind me. It's a guy called Kentu. Hello, Kentu. If you're out there and by some miracle you end up seeing this, because he asked me if I had a YouTube channel, and then I realised I didn't tell him where I was. Yep. Big salute to my fellow psychopaths in chat. But yeah, Kentu, I helped him out with the ship because his Aurora wouldn't spawn. So ships are built very, very differently at sea. So you tend to find that they're built in segments, so vertical segments. So if you imagine you put a ship side on, so there's your ship, you've got the bridge at the back, yeah. What you'll have is it'll be built in vertical slices, and they're called watertight compartments. And that idea is not carrying across to this yet. So the idea then is that those bulkheads stop water as and when it gets in from flooding the whole ship and making it capsize or sink or whatever. There is obviously a very similar premise with being in space, because you can't breathe nothing. So you are going to want to, with this, and what we'll do is we'll just go through and pause bits and pieces, and I'll just show you the bit that I'm looking at while I'm thinking that. Okay, and it's this bit. Okay, so I look right, here's Kentu, but it's this bit. Okay, so one of the things here that's very, very weird, you've got the blast doors, and obviously the blast doors here, they are kind of clever, because what they're doing is they're trying to seal off. If that turret gets blown off, gets ripped off, whatever, then you can still, the blast doors will seal, but here people can still be moving around and there'll still be atmosphere, which makes sense. But what you'll often find is somewhere along that there should also be a way of stopping something on this side. So on the white side of this area, I'm not sure if you can see my mouse here, but on the white side of the area as well. And the reason for that is, you imagine you're someone in a turret, you get hit down here, the turret's still operating, you're still fighting, the turret gets disabled, you need to be able to go and help someone, you come back down, the blast doors are shut either side of you because there's a fire here. And now the fire has propagated both sides of where you are, you're stuck. And that's not good. Single Check says, totally blaming Infra Runners for forcing me to buy a BMM and an Endeavour. There is a little bit of a cult going on there. I'm not gonna lie, Single Track. There is definitely a bit of a cult going on there. Yeah, the blast doors, the difference between blast doors and the other doors, I'm not sure where they're going with that. Because in theory, with electric doors like this, automatic doors, you should be able to just lock any of them. I suppose the idea being blast doors are far more resistant to damage than the other normal internal doors do. But in theory, you should still be able to, from the bridge or the ship's control center, hit a button and just lock off sections. But no, you're probably right, Jock. That makes sense to me. Okay. So yeah, you can see here that it's just one space. Kentu comes along as well. Yeah, but that's it. That entire space is just that turret. And a significant bit of kit that it is. You've got these two, and I believe you've also got 2 point defense guns if you change over, or at least that's where they're going to go. So these guns will double as both. If we look down to the right, if memory serves. And that's it. So you're going to have to choose between dealing heavy damage to your opponents and being able to defend yourself against incoming ordnance. And on that front, you would expect missiles to be much harder for these things to hit, exceptionally hard to hit, but actually doing very little damage other than removing some of the armor, whereas torpedoes, much slower, easier to hit, larger in size, but if they connect, doing significant damage. Notorious LB says, assuming CIG actually give us the tools to do so, you should be able to use the ship-wide to announce the damage control state. Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those things that, with the damage control, there's so much that they can do, and being able to have a ship-wide communications thing that allows you to communicate with people is going to be pretty important. The internal communications, that's a whole YouTube episode by itself. Monster Heavy says, yeah, it does seem like they pick and choose logic. Same thing to counter fire venting the ship, but you wouldn't vent the ship for a small fire area. Bulkheads or dividers would make sense. Yeah, and you see this. I think what's interesting here is, and again, I'll pause this just for a second. What's interesting here is you see the difference between the Javelin, which has been going for a while, and if you look at like the Javelin level layout, that's been around an awful long time. And then you look at the Hammerhead. The Hammerhead has this compartment idea. It's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but it does have this kind of layout idea. But yeah. Yes, the miniguns on top of the turrets. Yes, you're right. So they may be point defense. They may have, in effect, be like a bladed mini turret. But if you're going to control them, you'd imagine that would just be a slightly different way of controlling it in the cockpit, in the turret itself. It might be that they get controlled by somewhere else completely, and they're two independent systems, which would be a little bit terrifying. But who knows? Yeah, so I think there's a bit of a shift in the design philosophy between Hammerhead and this. What really makes sense is things like engines, magazines, high-risk spaces would all be able to vent to space, but sealed. So you see how the Hammerhead's engines are open? They shouldn't be. They should be in a module. So you take the engine, and then you put it in a module completely. And then if there's obviously there's not an intake per se, but if the fuel, the plasma has to go somewhere, the hydrogen, whatever, then that's all sealed within that module, and there's a seal around that too. And that happens in modern ships, so you can spray a gaseous firefighting system into it. And I, as an engineer with no breathing apparatus on whatsoever, can stand literally the other side. I can look through the glass at this burning engine, operate the spray, because that's exactly how it's supposed to be operated. It fills this thing full of gas, starves it of oxygen, and then what you do then is you can either operate a spray, or if you don't want to damage the engine and you're able to, give it the time to cool down, because obviously if you immediately open the door, it's still hot enough to be on fire. So you introduce oxygen back into the space, it ignites again. So you'd have to wait for it to cool down naturally, but that's probably your best chance of that engine ever operating again under like battlefield repairs and stuff. The kind of the corridors here and stuff don't feel like a warship. They feel much more like what we've seen of spaceships in films and stuff, because all of the pipework and the wiring is exposed on a warship, because you want them to be able to find damage and leaks and that sort of stuff. It's crucial for damage control that you can identify where a pipe is split. You isolate it either side, put patch repair on it, and then get it running again, because a lot of the pipework, especially in terms of water on board, is carrying something called your high pressure salt water main. You get too many holes in that, you can't fight fires, you're going to lose the ship. Accommodation spaces. Now, these bits, what's quite good fun is where you see these 3 on a warship. Okay, so in a junior rates accommodation, there would be 3 bunks that level. They don't have TVs in unless the guys jury rig them themselves, and they're not quite as plush as that. We don't have pull down bits or like shutters that completely block sound out. You have a privacy curtain, so the curtain runs the entire length, but obviously noise and that just comes straight through, and that's it. But yeah, often you'll find people will have things like books and that stowed away. They'll have some sort of jury rig system, maybe to watch DVDs. Cool. Excuse me. Stream sponsored by Brewdog Hazy Jane, the last can in the house. What I did like here is the numbers next to each set of bunks, if you notice, right, by the lights. Because you can imagine there's 80 people on this thing, and you are going to go, and you're going to be, told that, oh, you need to wake so-and-so up for their shift, right? And you go down, well, where are they? And you go, well, they're in berth 12, top bunk, berth 12, bottom bunk. It enables you to go and wake people up without waking up the entire place. Because these ships run 24/7. Always people awake, always people doing their job. Yeah. It does, Single. It does. Hazy Jane does rock, you're right. Just seeing all the buttons, I was like, can I press that? Can I press it? Obviously not. No, I can't. That's a little bit more in terms of being able to track this stuff so you can see where damage is, but it would be the same as with, there's a lot of loose, or, not loose, but visible cabling on warships. Big spaces like that bunk room. Hello, Shadow. No, they didn't. Tour is exactly the same, unfortunately, so you've joined us about halfway through. But that really big space that we just saw, look at me being all polite. And then Kentu just like, not so much. Yeah, so In fact, I think the one thing that I didn't do on this... Do you know what? I'm just thinking now. The one thing I didn't do on this, I don't think I went to the briefing room. I've just remembered. The bloody briefing room, because I've just looked down there. So, yeah. Yeah, those big spaces like the bathrooms or the showers and heads, as they would be called, on a warship, you don't tend to have big open spaces like that unless they're required for something. So something like that would be a hangar on a normal warship, or an area that requires you to move big objects through, say like on a Palatron or something like that. You don't tend to get those big areas. You imagine getting water into a ship. Okay. Imagine putting a metal box or a plastic box in the bath. Right, and you start filling it with water, and you push it over. Imagine all the water running to one side, right? And the weight that adds, so the box, the ship, if you like, continues to roll. Now imagine doing the same thing with like an empty toolbox, right? All those little compartments are going to stop all the water rushing to one side, so it doesn't rush as far. That's exactly the same theory with ships. So, yeah. That's not the biggest ideal. And again, with this, if you can imagine, what you don't want is big spaces for fires to get into. So, because it becomes so much, they become like ovens. It becomes so much harder to deal with. It takes a lot longer for the space to use out all its oxygen. Yeah, in this scenario, that's why you wouldn't want big spaces. I know it's not going to fill with water, but you wouldn't want, for the amount of time it takes to burn out the oxygen, the fire's going to burn that much hotter, risk setting fire to what's on the other side of that metal wall as well. So, yeah. Cool. Did the officers sleep with the enlisted? Not going to touch that one. Yeah. So, I don't know with this. So, I think on this one there's a captain's cabin up close to the bridge again. I don't know if they've separated out the officers from the enlisted. Notorious is exactly right when he says officers' quarters are traditionally called the wardroom, and the idea being that you keep officers and enlisted away from each other. It might well be, if I flick back to wherever, when we first go into that space. So as we walk in, yep, so you've got this space here, that space to the right. Let's see if we can see. So as we walk around, is there anything here that gives it away? Mind your head. So it might be that this is the officers' quarters. Right, and that's why it's separated away behind a bulkhead. But yeah, it doesn't seem like they have a separate rec space, which would be the wardroom. So the separate mess, as they call it. So it's an officer's mess, senior eights and junior eights messes, petty officer's mess, chief's petty officer's mess. The mess is not that they've just thrown everything on the floor. The mess is their recreational space. Okay, like a mess hall. Yeah. Okay, so let's go back to where we were. But yeah, this is something that isn't too uncommon. If you look at the seats either side while I muck around with the wheel, if you look at the seats, you see how they're all fixed? Yeah, you imagine the ship takes a hit, everything jumps, everything gets thrown up into the air and put back down again. Yeah, the reason for that, obviously if you've got chairs loose and furniture loose and everything else, it ends up everywhere, and internally it basically becomes a missile, right? So, it's flung around at the speed that everything else is going. One of those metal tables crashes into one of your food microwaves, replicators, whatever. Done. Yeah, completely written off, and now you can only cook so much food. So, not ideal. And that's why it's all fixed down. Wolf, imagine that you fill it up with an org that has 100 members in the Javelin. There'll be a lot of communications and orders. Yeah, absolutely that. That's exactly what it's gonna need. It's basically the raid level gameplay in Star Citizen, and then some. I mean, I remember how much fun it was to get 40 people to go and, kill Ragnarok and WoW Vanilla back when it was actually just WoW. Yeah, that's gonna be scary. Jock says, I'm really hoping Norsa says that small surface combatant feel like a hunt class or a sandnet. Yeah, absolutely. I think the Perseus and the hunt, the Perseus and the hunt, the Perseus, the Nautilus, all that sort of stuff, hopefully will have that very streamlined kind of surface combatant field. Yeah, it said I could click some stuff. I started clicking stuff and not so much, right? But the fact that you can even interact with it, I think, is different. I don't think that's there before. Yeah, a couple of windows, limited. Yes, yeah. The Eminem man in the towel. Yeah, it's. I think that's going to be one of the biggest challenges for this. So one of the things you get asked very or I get asked very regularly by people in the know is that, do you think at any point we're going to see an operations room like it is in real life, right? And I'm gonna hopefully go and get you some images now and show you that, because now Kentu and I, we make our escape without having seen the briefing room, which is a bit of a shame, but maybe I'll add that later. I'll go and do that. We'll do that next week, because I try and get some external shots now of the of this thing. So let's close that down. Cool. And what I'll do is I'll try and find you some images of a couple of ships, and how those ships kind of look, the internals. But an operations room, you may well have seen it in things like some of the Bond films have internals. You may have seen it in Greyhound with Tom Hanks and Stephen Graham. Stephen Graham spends a lot of his time in a darkened room with radios, and all that sort of stuff. So, so let's have a look. Images. So this often gets asked, is this something that you can foresee being put in the game? And my gut feeling is no. Simply because the bridge, if you look at the bridge of the Idris, that's what the back space looks to be. That looks to be very much like an operations room. And also, there's no space, there's no windows, there's no sense of location, there's none of that stuff. And at least the other spaces, on things like the Javelin and the Idris, are going to have enough interesting things to look at. Whereas that, not so much. So that's... And this is something else that they're going to have. So this is the engineering station on a warship. Okay, so this is a Type 23 frigate. This is the what they call the SCC, the ship's control center. The marine engineering of the officer of the watch sits in here. Yeah, he gets his other person sit next to him. Here are all the state boards for propulsion generators, freshwater plants, saltwater pumps. The ship has electromagnetic drive. It also has what they call a gas turbine drive. Yeah, so it's basically two marinized 747 jet engines that go through a reducing gearbox, so it can actually turn the shaft at a speed that doesn't make it shoot out the bottom of the ship. But yeah, so that's part of it there. I'm just trying to see now if I'm trying to look at and see if any of this I recognise. So that's a Type 23 bridge. I'm familiar with 23s. So the captain is sat just there. Yep, just in front of this gentleman. That's where the officer watch and the navigator drives from. This is the officer watch 1. That was my job when I was on 23. And you've got the person actually steering, and then this little dude on the stool down here, he's doing the engines. So the engine levers are just the other side of the club swinger. They call them the PTI, the physical training instructor. We call them the club swinger. Right, so they're sat just the other side of there. Shadow Gal, are you still having bad crashing in game? We have reduced that a lot. I turned XMP on in my RAM. Well, DOCP, because it's an AMD motherboard. But I turned that on for the first time ever. It's running a lot faster now. Fixed. Not completely fixed. But much more stable. We'll give it a go at the end of the stream today, just to see where we land. But having said that, we think that the next step is going to be a complete Windows reinstall, because we've done everything else. And we haven't managed to achieve much better than that, I'm afraid. Okay. So, then, let's have a look. I always kind of hope that I pop up in one of these, but I think I'm in some of the training stuff. When I was at the college, they had the bridge simulators, and they come to do training shots, and there's one of me looking steely driving the ship, looking down the compass, but if anyone could find that, that'd be amazing. But it's Britannia Royal Naval College, Dartmouth, bridge simulator. It's I think it's one of their old brochures, or a PDF, I think, but I'm not sure. But have a look. You won't recognise me because I was thin and no beard. I get Windows are weak points, but it's get outside. Yeah, and in games it's vital to give people that sense of space and where they are. So, yeah, dodgy not to let people know where they are. And I think that's why spaces like the ship's control centre, if you look at the engineering spaces that they have in the game, they're either, like, obviously not meant for you to be in a lot, the sides of the hammerhead, or the key one is above the cargo space. It's got the window. You're at least aware of where you are. You've got something else to look at. It's visually very interesting. You know, just locking people in a darkened room, as proved by the Navy, is not particularly fun. So where we looked before at the SCC, this is the angle from the other way, right? So we were looking at where are we? Ugh, I've lost it now. Here we go. Now I've done it. Basically, the corner that we were looking into, right? This is them looking. This is it looking back the other way. So you were basically stood in the doorway looking into the SCC. This angle is 180 in the corner looking back towards the doorway. And I've just lost it again, haven't I? Do you know what? I give up. Yeah. Being locked in a dark room isn't fun unless you're a submariner. But they're just weird. But yeah, and this is the reason I'm intent on finding this photo, is because there's something in it that's quite kind of, here we go. It's quite important to see as well. So that's back towards the door. This is where the photo was taken, looking at us here. This is looking back. This is the engineering officer watch here. Yeah, or the damage control officer if this is damage action stations. This rig that you can see him wearing, okay, this is overalls, and this is something called anti-flash. Now, if you imagine there's an explosion, normally the heat and the initial kind of, you know, you've been anywhere near a fire, you don't have to be over it to feel that direct heat on your skin, and it can start to get prickly and very, very painful and uncomfortable. that heat, when you're in the open, dissipates very, very quickly. You imagine you do that locked in a steel box with the explosive, and what you can find is you get something called flashover, which is acute, or flash, which is not flashover, flash, which is acute sunburn style feelings and damage to the skin, and it can be awful. Like, when I say sunburn, I'm not doing it justice, right? This can be incredibly painful, lethal, debilitating. So this stuff is just designed to be an obstacle between that and your skin, and it stops a lot of that damage. So that's why people are wearing that. You pull that up over your face. This is, so you get something called flash burn, so you'll get damage around here, but the idea is that you close your eyes, obviously, when that happens, and that'll happen almost as a reflex reaction anyway. So when you go to action stations, i.e. you're going into a hostile scenario, everyone in the ship will be wearing their version of that. Officers wear white, okay, so they can be easily identified, because the bottom line is you want to get the most important people seen too fast in a triage situation. That's, and as far as the Navy's concerned, that's officers, senior rates, junior rates, and that sort of stuff. But yeah, Limited Respawn says, you seem to say things my missus recognised. She went to uni in Plymouth. Yeah, I grew up in Plymouth. I grew up, so at least I got older in Plymouth from when I was born. So yeah. Plymouth's a place dear to my heart. But yeah, and then there's loads of stuff that you can see in terms of kind of how these spaces are developing. There's loads of, they're going from some very kind of, you can see how crowded these spaces are. Yeah. So this is an inspection. You've got these people who are at action, and then the people who are in shirts, ties, epaulets. They are the inspectors. So that's quite a stressful time for a ship's company. I remember it well. Our organisation called FOST. Notorious, you will learn to loathe or love them depending on how sadistic you are. But yeah, so that's that. There are some clear carry across bits from what CIG are doing to the from the Captain Jaspers loves it. Yeah, no better place to go on a night out when you've had a skinful. But you have to start early because they don't stay open that late. So you've got to. That's a day drinking and eating Captain Jaspers. Awesome. So the Nomad, so the hoods, these things, they are required in action. So what you can do. So this is how not to wear it. Like really, how not to wear it. This should be tucked into your, like that. It should be tucked into your overalls with it done up securely, right? You don't wear it like that, right? If I wore it like that, I would get kicked across the bridge. Do not wear it like that, ever. But yeah. Proof that we still use cannons, like actual cannons. But yeah, so the hoods are that anti-flash thing that I was talking about. So let's have a look then. Let's have a look at close. Fury. That's an interesting ship. That's very, very weird. What shocked me about Aegis is, and I know it happens every year, but just how quickly the Idrises and the Javelin sold out. It's terrifying. Idris, actual frigate. It's an actual frigate. That's kind of cool. Javelin destroyer, Minesweeper, and a couple of ships. I won't bore you guys too much because I know a lot of you watch the Yeah, the info runners. So I don't want to kind of, recover too much old ground. But if you are, for example, considering one of these bad boys, yeah, one of the Vanguards, that would be my recommendation. Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it, Shadow Girl? Tell me your thoughts on the Fury and Liberator as a carrier. I'm gonna have to swallow my words. Upsettingly, the Fury gives the Liberator genuine carrier possibilities, at least until the a ship's life support is rated only to support a number of people, because the number of Furies that you could fit on a Liberator versus the life support requirement. But it's doable. It's scarily doable. As the Fury, I really like the Fury in game. So I like the fold out, and I like that sort of stuff. I also think, yeah, I'm still considering the ban. Response says, I was expecting a ban for bringing it up. Yeah, possibly. Well, do you know what, Shadow? That's a really good point. With Death of a Spaceman, no one will want to get into those Death Trap Fury with no ejection. Do you know what? You are probably not right. Now, I'm just going to switch over quickly, because I do have some videos of the Fury, and I'll go and find them, and we can talk about them as well. I'll move them across. They're just buried in with everything else, see? So, that's 3 minutes. That's 1 minute. That's 125. Yeah, let's take those. It's not what I wanted to do at all. Okay. So, let's do this. So yeah, while we're talking, let's have it on the screen. So the Idris non-war bond sold out really quickly. It took the Idris war bond, I think, about 45 minutes, which is a little bit scary. But this is with all its bits and pieces deployed. No, bits and pieces. But yeah. So this is kind of crazy. And then at some point, I'm not gonna lie. The Fury defeating the Scorpius was a bit far fetched. A light defeating a heavy, especially a snub defeating a heavy, in one run like that was probably a not so much. John Cop, the Sentinel, you tell me Wild Weasel, and I'm in. No questions asked. Me too. Absolutely. The electronic warfare side of the Sentinel is why I recommend it. I think that's going to be really interesting. Also, summonable fuel port? What? Manual refueling, anyone? I feel like people kidnap noobs and force them into a Fury to kamikaze their enemies. Yeah, possibly. We put 5 Furies in my pirate caterpillar, acting like a mini carrier. Like, wolf, that sounds awesome. Also, pirate caterpillar, nice. But yeah. Forgive me, it took me a long old time to figure out that this thing needed to be deployed. So you're not going to see it here, I'm afraid. I was far more focused in flying it around and you know, between buildings, and that's where I get into a bit of a trouble in a second. It's really interesting watching this back because it's not something that I'm used to. Like, when I play, the textures and that don't feel as metallic. It doesn't look as real. But when I'm sit here watching it, like just watching the light play off the metal and stuff, I'm reminded how awesome this game is visually. Despite the age of the engine, despite everything, it's really something else. With the Living Furies, I don't think you'll be able to support sustained ops, as your sortie generations are going to be limited by the hand refueling rearm. Although if you're just doing a one-off, yeah, Zagros, you'll be fine. Yeah, that's the trick, and that for me is the limiting factor on the on the Liberator. Full stop. The end. Yeah. So apologies. I'm going to end up flying it around a lot like this. Non-deployed. I know it looks awful. Forgive me. Yeah, absolutely monster. You know, I'm not pretending that the Liberator is a frontline choice. If what you're looking for is a very low cost, low rent, low maintenance option to give your opponent really something to think about, a Liberator chock full of Furies is not a bad way to go. But this was so cool. I didn't think they let you fly around like this, and then I figured out that they really don't, because in just a minute the game spazzes out and sends me back to somewhere because I've been naughty and too close to buildings. There you go. Because I was naughty. There you go. Bad badges. Very bad badges. And then what did I capture in this one? Oh yeah, this got even weirder. Yeah, that was very strange, wasn't it? Liberator recruits alongside the medical ship. Yeah, I question whether even top tier beds. I think respawning is going to need to be done as a separate facility. I just don't think they're gonna. I don't think they're gonna let you respawn in med beds like that. I mean, you imagine that as a Javelin, for example. You just keep respawning your crew. It's like, and the 80-person ship becomes, you know, 160, 240, depending how many times you respawn them all. So yeah, and then I think I go to land up here. Something weird happens when I land, but I think I cut the video out first. I can't remember. But I basically try and land and walk out on that little spar. And it lands fine until I get out, and then everything just kind of falls through. Oh yeah, this. Yeah, so then I look down and land, and that's that. Cool. So yeah, Invictus itself is a bit weird, because it's a bit of a strange thing to form a naval tradition around. Maybe it's just because the RN has, and this isn't a flex. It's going to sound like a flex. Bear with me, but because the RN has such an illustrious history as, you know, if nothing else, the largest navy on the planet for an awful long time, it's very easy to beat your opponents when there's so many of you. Even if that's the only reason, and it's not. But that's that. Then, you know, a lot of our naval traditions are formed around Victories, or bizarrely around Nelson's. So one of the senior rates mess dinner is Pickle Night, and HMS Pickle brought news of Nelson's death back to the UK. Sailed ahead of the fleet, sailed ahead of his body, and brought news that the immortal Lord Nelson had passed or had been passed away in battle. So that tends to be kind of around battles and victories, and our most celebrated admiral and leader. That sort of stuff tends to be what gets a naval tradition going. But I get it. I think Invictus is still quite a believable premise. As far as conscription can be a believable premise. I know it's not conscription, but you see my point. Yeah, that's it. Keep your thumb hidden. Naval salute. Yeah, put your thumb away. Sorry, like that. Put your thumb away so it's actually... there we go, like that. Yeah. Because Queen didn't like thumbs, or that's the rumour. And then Navy sailors were often called Jolly Jack Tars, because with galleons and stuff we used to use tar to keep the outside of the ship watertight. So when you were working with this stuff, obviously the palms of your hands were black and horrible. So basically level with your eyebrow here, halfway across the eye, and instead of doing that you would turn it down, and then this bit of your arm straight with your wrist. So the whole thing has to be straight like that. And then the arm comes up 90 degrees with the floor. This bit makes the rest of the angle. Turn. That's a salute. That's it. It's the Navy thing. And it is straight up, straight down. None of this waving arms around and doing all that sort of stuff. Because there's not room on a warship. You don't have the room to wave your hands around because you punch someone or something. It's also why when the Queen is toasted at an official dinner and people stand for the Queen, the Navy do not. It is our tradition that we do not stand to toast the Queen, because in the wardroom at the back of the ship, there is not enough headroom to stand. You would have to stoop. So to stand would bang our heads. And at the end of the mess dinner, you're pretty drunk, so that would just end up with a lot of incapacitated officers who would forget and brain themselves. Rescue! Hello, mate. How are you? Haven't seen you in a while. Welcome to the stream, bud. What do you think of the fucking chin thing? It's getting a bit out of control, I'm not going to lie. I have to put a lead on it in a minute. But yes, so... there's also something that the Navy doesn't do. We don't clap. Okay, so if you ever go to a mess dinner and someone's banging on the table, right, some assholes do that. But if it's from the Navy, it's not an asshole. We don't clap because when you're down below, clapping sounds an awful lot like very distant gunfire to the watch on deck, who then take the ship to action. So we bang the table to show our appreciation. It's the same as clapping, but you don't you don't clap because you get people in trouble. I've gone blurry. There we go. That was an unfortunate time to not be blurry, but yeah, knocks years off you. Thanks, mate. I know you're lying now. All it is, Chris, is I said that when at the beginning of the year I said my management next appreciates me, I'm going to shave. But yeah, so that's that. So what I wanted to do just at the end, just to see if we get anywhere near it, is I'm going to kill a load of the background stuff, and then we're going to try booting up the game and seeing how stable it runs. I'm hoping that this little fix that I've found is enough to provide us a stable platform, at least for the last little bit. But let's find out, shall we? Hobo Hagrid. Nice. Yeah. Yeah, limited. Yeah, absolutely. I just, yeah, it is the king now. You're right. Um, yeah, right. So yeah, Shadow. So basically, where we are, like I said, DHCP turned on. We're going to have to do a full Windows reinstall. I'm under no illusion that that needs to happen. It's just unfortunate. So, you know, it's going to give out at some point. Whether that's while we're on the we're online or not is another thing entirely. But it's okay because we know what the solution is, so it's fine. Insert M2 drive, fresh install of Windows. That drive basically from brand new, and then we'll see where we go from there. So, let's see. I can't quite remember where I am for what we're going to be doing. Maybe just see the Bengal, right, and just have a zip around that if we can. But according to this, we're going to appear in Lawville, so I'm going to change over. I'm going to remember to do that this time, which will be fun. In fact, just with chat only, let's just fix the audio. So hopefully that. Yeah, that's it. But there's been a massive increase in stability. I've been getting some significant sessions in today without it doing anything stupid. So that was good. Well, at least until 4 o'clock came, and then all the fucking mine free flyers got involved. But yeah. Hazy Jane, not a bad choice at all. I'll be drinking much of that on my birthday and trying to get very, very drunk. Now, where are we in terms of? Let's see, shall we? Oh no. So I had a scary issue recently when I built my PC. I put the M2 thing into, I guess, a secondary slot, which uses a motherboard chip and not the CPU. After years, it started having problems and not load all the time. Ugh. Did switching it across work, or did you have something in the other slot already? Primary slot. Ooh, tell me it couldn't be accessed. Ugh. Did you save everything on it? So, did everything survive? Yeah, limit research. Badgerception transition is awesome. Yeah, do you know what? It's one of these stream sites. I hear Alpha Gaming or Senpai Gaming as it is. Yeah, well. F. Well, the good news is that, you know, at least it's been more stable, so I can at least get the footage for the videos. Unfortunately, today, with one thing and another, I got sidetracked in getting footage for a video. So yeah, thanks, Shadow. Did we try and play some Star Citizen? Whoopsie! Rescue Shack, shut your mouth, all right? Solitaire. No, it's not solitaire. You dingus. Was that the briefing room? No. Let's give it another go, shall we? Maybe, I don't know, maybe we appear in the elevator of doom again. I don't know. I'm confused at this point. So the good news, obviously, is when I'm playing this normally, it's not trying to replace my background with green screen magic. And it's not trying to also encode all this and upstream it to YouTube, which is being done by a single PC. So it'll be fine. We'll get there in the end. Well, yeah, at least I'm back in there. Ta-da. Right, I'm just going to go ham for it, because why not? Look, Naval! Ah! Good. Where are we? Are we in Everest? No, trust that. Oh, it'll be Everest next, won't it? Cool. Let's go find the main goal. So, it turns out it's not GPU Shadow. Good guess, because that's what I thought it was as well at the beginning. So when the error message comes out, it says something about system memory, despite the fact that it registers between 6 and 10 gigabytes of free system memory. Not a page file issue, we've ruled that out. The RAM is there, free, ready to go, ruled that out with Task Manager. So, yeah, that's what it comes up with, because it says, is GPU memory or is GPU memory full? No. Is system memory full? Yes. That's the bit that it's screwing up with. Can help walk through this, so Can's probably got a really good take on it as well. As you can see his messaging there. So yeah, that's what it is, bizarrely. And it's an old error, it looks like. So we're hoping that by doing a brand spanker's new Windows install with no artifacts, all of my other solid states are going to go. That's it, because everything else on the rig, the RAM, the GPU, the GPU's even newer than the RAM, the motherboard, the chip, but it's 5600X, so it shouldn't be mucking around like this. There's definitely some specific error in here that's crept in. So we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out and we'll sort it, and it will be good. But yeah, we shall get there in the end, and I shall continue to persevere through here and see what we can do. One of the things I do want to do is see if I can find another one of those UE advocacy badges, because I like the rare stuff.
TISA spaceport. Please watch your step when disembarking the train. Center. Stand by and let passengers disembark.
That's a no. That's a no. Right. So, in that case, whilst we're here talking, I'm going to try and find you some other videos. There are a couple of videos that I want to try and show you. You're in one of them. So, stick about. I'm not even sorry for what I'm about to do next. Oh, that's right. Is this the... So, this is... So, someone needs to talk to ArcCorp about the use of their hangars, because this is not appropriate. Okay. Yes, that's a capital ship hangar. Yes, that's a Fury. No, I didn't put it there. I know it looks like I did, but I didn't put it there. They genuinely spawned it in a capital ship hangar. That's how small a Fury is compared to everything else. So, yeah, how good is that? I don't know. I don't know is the answer. I don't know why. Why would you... Yeah, I'm sure VRAM is maxing, but the error log from this doesn't register it as a GPU RAM full or limit exceeded or anything. So yeah, I mean, yes, you could literally test flight. You could probably belt round this thing at full SCM and not hit a wall. Yeah. Well, this time, both times, OBS took itself out, so possibly. Wolf, sorry, mate. No, I'm not. I'm trying to use videos at the minute to get around this issue of my PC currently hating streaming this live. So we're going to use videos. So yeah, as you can see, I'm kind of, there you go, doing that stuff. The only thing I would say about the Fury that I don't like at the minute is the fact that you can't even place waypoints without a quantum drive. So I tried to place waypoints on the station. You can't. And you can't even bring it up to show the waypoint. So there's just nothing. You just got to point and hope that it's there, which is a bit of a... It's, yeah, something like that. So, yeah, navigation without the on the Fury is just pish. But yes, I think I might have another couple of bits and pieces in here. Stand by. Let's see what I can find. There is somewhere, and Cam will tell you, an absolutely perfect version of our friend Gaucho. Gouch, if you're listening, he talks utter random crap sometimes, and I caught him doing it in stream. So yeah, that was good fun. I can embarrass him a bit. And this, one of the weirdest bugs from 3.18. Oh, hang on. You're going badges, we can't see that, aren't you? I don't know. I felt like it was big head mode from N64 GoldenEye. It was like, this guy was like, why are you following me around? This is really creepy. I was like, dude, like, it's not my fault. Look at the state of your helmet. Yeah. Yeah, right. That's just the grey cat, the Ninetales grey cat helmet, but for some reason it's glitched out and it's like, what? So yeah, that was pretty weird. And it might take a little longer for me to find this other bit, so bear with me while I go hunting, because I've done what I normally do with this sort of thing. I've hidden it in a safe space, so God knows where it's gone. But let's see if I can find it. I named it like do not delete this under any circumstances, but let's see what I can find. No, it's none of that stuff. Safe space, SCA. Yeah, no, that's not one of those. The elevators in SC are many things. A safe space is not one of them. None of that. Ah. Extreme close-up. Yeah, sorry, I kind of forget what I'm doing and lean forward, and then you'll get to see my nose hairs, which is probably not the thing that you were after. But, I mean, maybe it was. Especially if you're that, Rescue Shrek fella. He's a bit weird. Nope. None of those. Nope. I'll do my best to find it, but if I can, it's not the end of the world. I'll find it for the next one because it'll be good for that. Beard inspection mode. Ugh. Yeah, I think you've escaped, Ken. I can't find this thing. It'll be in here somewhere, but I can't find it at the minute. I think you've just managed to escape from that one. I wonder, because I think I put something like do not delete. So maybe if I search for delete, maybe that'll show. Can you tell by yourself for dimmer from your beard inspection? But yeah. So, Invictus then. Here's the big one for you. What do people think is the chance of getting a stealth ship? So what I mean by stealth is not stealth as in a stealthy ship or a ship designed for stealth. I mean something like a concept or something that we really, really weren't expecting. Something that goes straight to concept. Because it's a lot of small offerings, this one. We've got the Fury and the Fury MX. We've got the Lynx, and we've got the Tumble Storm. There's not really much else that is kind of in there as a... there isn't anything else as far as we can tell. So, what do people reckon? Never talked about before, Rescue. Citizen Con. Pyro possibly won't be ready. Yeah, I pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. Yeah, it very much feels like that whole look at the hands, look at the Fury, look at the Lynx, and you're not looking at what you should be looking at. It does feel very much like that. I agree. The question is that what's actually going on, or is it something else? Another useless ground vehicle. Yeah, possibly. The CCUs feel like they're for the higher value stuff, so it's kind of enticing people to stretch and try and reach. Excuse me, that's rude. You know, the stuff that they can't quite, you know, they may not have been able to afford otherwise. So, you know, it does feel like it might be going that way a little. No doubt. Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of hoping that's all it is. I'm just really hoping that we do get something that's very cool and you know, kind of down that line. It makes sense for them financially. It makes sense for us, so maybe it'll be a return to big ships. But yeah, what was that? Does it somehow makes you wonder what the ships team were doing during the whole 318 debacle. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple of ways you can read into it. I think potentially it means that they're working on Squadron 42. And they are in that final sprint for, you know, to get Squadron 42 feature complete. Maybe they're not. You know, I genuinely don't know. Hopefully there's something, because so far it seems a bit meh. Yeah, I agree. Well, sure, there'll be some sort of surprise. Hopefully, CCUs are crap. Feels like something good has to be coming. I do like the idea of stealth being back in the game. I really thought that would be great. Yeah, E-War needs to come. They're not offering anything lower because they're releasing the sub $200 ship, Crusader starter ship. Yeah, all pretty reasonable points and ideas. It's just, I guess we'll have to see where they land in the end. That's from another video entirely, so it's not that. Not that either. Another tier 1 minor RSI starter. They can release whatever ship they like at this point, or rather gameplay implemented to improve all ships rather than just have another flying box. Crusader ship would have been dropped by now as it's been... Yeah, it's after Crusader. The worst part is I know exactly what video we're talking about, badges, and it's pretty funny. Yeah, mate, if I can find it, I will unleash it upon this here unsuspecting public, because they deserve it. But let's find out. Yeah, it's you know, it's I've obviously got to make the same old point that everyone makes, right, which is the ship team isn't the gameplay team. But aside from, and I know you're not saying that they are, you know, aside from that, they've got some work to do, and hopefully what we'll see after Squadron 42 releases is a massive, or a considerable at least, uptick in how often they are laying down new gameplay loops. Because for me, that's the big one, right? If you count up how many gameplay loops we have left, and then the most that we've ever released in a year, and then divide one by the other, that's giving you a fairly good idea of how long it's going to take before we get anything in the game, or we get everything in the game that we're after, right? Because it's like, oh, maybe it's going to be 3 years from now. Well, that requires them to release something like 6 gameplay loops a year, and they've never done it. So it's clearly not going to be 3 years. It's never going to be 3 years. No matter how many times people say, oh, it's 3 years. It's not 3 years. Stop it. It's harmful because people start believing that rubbish. And then, everyone just gets really annoyed because it's not. It's like, just doesn't need to become that pressured. But yeah, it would be nice to know they can live a consistent work before Squadron 42. Yeah, I mean, the problem is at the moment is that we're fighting an uphill battle with Squadron 42 because Squadron 42 is where all the work's going. So we're never gonna win that fight, right? That's beyond us. But hopefully, at some point soon, they'll be able to change that over because we've got our new stuff in and whatever else. Yeah. It's just bothering me now, mate. I know it's in here somewhere. Yeah, that's true. I think that what who in chat, quick show of hands, who in chat has tried to has tried to get into Eve within the last couple of years? Yeah, Badger's feet picks. No, feet pick, not my thing. Like ever. Not even once. Just not my nope. Nope. Yeah, Wolf Limited. How did you find it? What was your overwhelming same with you, Rescue. What was your overwhelming kind of experience? Overwhelming. Yeah? In what way? Overwhelming, daunting. And I think that would kind of be my point with when people say, well, why do we need Squadron 42? I mean, depending on whether or not you are, even a Squadron 42 or a fan, right? Whether or not you want it. The fact of how overwhelming it is kind of the point that I want to make, right? Is that there's no, what's the phrase I'm looking for? There's no easy way into that game. That game is just a wall of a learning curve. Right? Squadron 42 will hopefully overcome that for us, right? And allow new players into the game, because whether people want to admit it or not, new players are always the lifeblood of a game. And it will be an easy step into that. Because they're going to have to do something, right, for new players to come into the game. The huge amount of server architecture they need at the back end versus the cost that it's going to be for us to not have a subscription game. They need turnover of new players. It's going to be quite important. You know, and it also builds up a lore. It shows off what they can do. A decent Squadron 42 will shut the critics up. A bad Squadron 42 will be a significant blow for the persistent universe. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll tell you what I'll do, rather than trying to find that now, because it's not wanting to do it, shall we say, is I will go and I will go and find that video for you at some point in the near future. I promise I will do my best to dig that one out of whatever hole I've put it in. But we will revisit when we get the chance, and hopefully show you what I consider to be at least quite a funny little video of some of the slightly mad things we end up getting up to. Cool. Well, I'm going to wind up the stream there then. Unfortunately, again, although that fix is working for me, it's not working on the stream. But I'm hoping it won't be fixed for next stream. I don't have the time. And next Sunday, I will not be here. I have my family coming up from Plymouth. They're going to come and visit next week. So I will not be on the stream. So we'll reconvene the Sunday after. We'll go and have a look. Yes, I'm very familiar with the Costa Concordia, but I will have a look at the Internet History and stuff. But yes, I've heard all the radio of the captain falling into his life raft. Yeah, right. Towel stream. Yeah, not so much. But yes, and also I'm going to mention this here first. There will be a very special, super secret stream in July, not about Star Citizen, about something else entirely close to my heart, completely unrelated to this stuff. More details to come later. But yes, so thank you very much for putting up with all the constant crashes again, and all the rest of it stuff. And yes, we will have hopefully some progress, potentially by the next stream, but certainly by the stream after. So next stream will likely be June the 4th, which is a Sunday, same time, same place, and same Hazy Jane with any luck. It's been a pleasure speaking to you all. I quite like this actually with a video. I think it works well, especially when I get some time to actually get a little bit more video and run something together. But yes, thank you very much for stopping by, and I'll see you all soon.